Hey guys, welcome. This is going to be a really quick one. I'm going to be talking about risk management. Okay. There are two types of risk management. Okay. We've got the fixed lot and then we've got the calculated risk. Okay. So before I get onto that, I just want you to be aware that, in the first video of this section, I talked about, the casino, having your edge and your trading plan is your edge and not deviating from your edge because it's going to mess up your own probabilities and all of that stuff. Well, that's great. But if you are not following correct risk management, then there's no point doing any of that. Okay. Because if you have a consistent trading plan, let's say you've got win, 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 loss, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, win, win. Okay. If we have risked, let's just say we've got a 1-to-1 risk reward, so it's easy to understand. Let's say we've risked 1% here. Okay, so we've made 1% here. The next trade, we're like, okay, cool, like I've just won, so I'm going to double my risk because I think that my strategy is clearly working. And let's say that also wins. Let's say we get a 2% win. At this point, we've made 3%. So we're thinking, okay, cool, I'm going to up my risk to 5%. Okay, we up it to 5%. What happens? Bang, overall, we've made 8%. Okay. Then we're thinking, okay, cool. Like I'm, on a bit of a roll here. I'm going to risk 10%. So on the next one, we're thinking, right, okay, I'm going to risk 10%. I'm clearly on a roll. Clearly everything's working well. Okay. You risk 10%. And what do you get? You get a loss. Now we've wiped out all the gains that we've made from these previous trades, okay, because we are following inconsistent risk management, which means regardless of how well we're following our plan, our equity curve is always going to be heading down. Okay, we're always going to be going down because we're not being consistent. We need to be consistent in all areas of our trading. Okay, from the plan to the risk that we're using with each trade. All of these things go into making up your edge. Okay, and so these two types here, we've got the fixed lot and we've got the calculated risk. Fixed lot is something I like to use for the shorter time frames, particularly scalping, because you won't have as long to make a decision with scalping. So it's important to have a fixed lot sometimes just to kind of account for that lack of time. Okay, and so for example, if you know that on average your stop loss in pips is between 5 and 9 pips, take the middle number out of that, 7 pips, and look at what 1% is for 7 pips. Okay, because then you know that over a large enough sample size, you're always going to be within this range. Sometimes you're going to be below 7, sometimes you're going to be above 7, but overall you're only going to be risking roughly 1%, around 1%, and over time those statistics will play out for you. And that's just a really good time saving method that I use mainly for scalping. Calculated risk is when you've got, more time. So I'd say anything from where you're entering or your whole trade decision is based on, anything above the kind of 15-minute. Okay, you could enter off the 5-minute, but if your trade decision is built on, the 15-minute, the 1 hour, the 30-minute, you've got plenty of time to do calculated risk. Okay, this is only for the fixed lot is only for the very where you haven't got much time at all. Okay, anyway, calculated risk, we want to make sure that if we are entering this position like this, or if we were entering this position like this, okay, we want to make sure that even though the stop losses are different sizes in pips, we want to make sure that these are worth 1% in this example. 1% and 1%. Okay. And so in this example, 53.2 pips here. So let's write this in, 53.2 pips. We can select our currency pair, which we've already done, Euro CAD. And let's just say that we've got a £1,000 account. What's 1% of £1,000? Well, it is £10. Whatever your currency is. Okay. And so what we are looking for is we are looking for £10 value in this value down here. So we can see that this is obviously way too big. Okay, so let's just go down to 0.1. Okay, 0.05, 0.2, 3. Okay, so we can see it's somewhere in between 0.03 and 0.04. For me personally, I like to always go on the slightly higher end. So just because sometimes this calculator can slowly, slightly underplay it. Okay. And you can see, when you actually have tested this on demo and whatnot, um, whether the results are slightly off, and you can modify as you go on, but as long as you kind of understand this, you'll be fine. Okay, so we know that we've got a £1,000 account and we're risking 53.2 pips. We want to be using around about 0.04 lots. Okay, very, very simple, because that gives us around 1% risk. Okay, very, very simple. Now in the alternative example, where we've got 27.2 as our stop loss, 27.2, we can see that this initial 0.04 is much too small to give us 1%. Okay, and so let's try and up it. Okay, so we can see that it's between 0.06 here and 0.07. I always opt for the higher choice. So 0.07 would be what we use. Okay, so we'd use 0.07 for this smaller position, and we'd use 0.04 for this larger stop loss position. Okay, so you see how even if your stop loss differs in size, we are remaining the same risk. We're risking 1% regardless of whatever happens, regardless of the actual pip size of the stop loss. Okay, and so this is what I'd recommend for pretty much all types of trading besides scalping and very, very quick moves. And sometimes you can begin to predict how many pips roughly you're going to be using based on your zone size, and I'll explain that when I explain the strategy in the next section, as you kind of get better. But for now, don't really worry about that. There's no need to become overly concerned with those facts. You'll get better at these things as you go on. So I hope that's made sense. Okay, moral of the story is maybe stick to this for scalping initially and then use this for pretty much everything else. Okay, so I hope that's made sense. Remember, you've got to keep everything consistent. You've got to be doing the same things when it comes to your risk, the trading plan that you're using. Everything has to be consistent. Otherwise, how can you expect consistent results? That is really the moral of this entire section before we kind of get into the technicals and all of that stuff. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you on the next video.